this week I've decided that instead of actually painting the miniature, I'm going to show you how to paint eyes, or at least the way I paint eyes. There's several different ways of doing it, but this is the particular method that I use. The reason I'm doing this is that I was going to do the face a bit more, work on the face, but I quickly decided that there was no way I was actually going to be able to paint, you know, sort of the eyeballs on camera, because I need to get really close to it, and with the camera in the way, it's virtually impossible. So what I figured I'd do is I've drawn sort of two eyes on here, and I'm just going to show you the method I use for actually painting eyeballs. So to start off with, you can outline in black if you want the eyeballs. Pretend this is sort of on a face. This is the miniature. You can outline in black or sort of dark shade, because the eyeballs tend to be recessed in the head. The first thing you want to be doing for a sort of a human figure is painting the eyeballs, the whole thing, in an off-white. Now the reason you want it in off-white is because white itself looks too stark. A good way of testing this is to take a look in a mirror at your own eyeballs, and you'll find that the outside of them isn't pure white. It tends to be sort of quite red, bloodshot, depending on what you were doing the night before. But one thing it isn't is pure white. So we go over that in a sort of, not quite a sort of a bone white colour, not quite that sort of dark. I'll show you the kind of darkness I'm talking about with that. If I grab some of this, so that's too dark. You probably want to go sort of 50-50 white and that kind of colour. I use bone white there because it comes in practically every single set of paints that I can think of. GW do a bone white, Vallejo do several bone whites, P3 do a sort of bone white. It's called jack bone, which is what that is. In this instance I have used off-white from the Vallejo game colour range. Just get that in there. It's one of the colours that doesn't come in the standard set, and it's quite a nice colour. It's got a sort of creamy hue to it, and I'm pretty sure if you mixed it in with that colour you'd get some quite nice, decent colours. But so anyway, don't paint them white. That's the first way of making an eyeball look wrong. A good way of doing it is to use the skin colour you were using, whiten that down till it's really light, until you can barely see the colour in it, and use that as your base. Okay, so then the next thing you do is paint in the eyeball itself, and we do that in a solid black, and you go down one side, down the other, and then fill it in. Now the first thing you'll notice is that this isn't just a circle. This is actually sort of two hemispheres, if you will, put side by side. The reason you don't do it as just a circle is if you do, and you do it like this, you end up with a very surprised looking character. Imagine what happens when you open your eyes wide, as in surprise or something like that. You end up seeing the entirety of the coloured bit of the eye. I'm not entirely sure what it's called. And that's, if you want the character to look surprised, obviously that's what you do. But in most cases you don't want that kind of effect. Again, excellent source, your own eyeballs. Go look in a mirror, look surprised, look angry, see what your eyes look like when you're making these emotions, and then transfer that to your character. So for most 20mm, 28mm characters, that's usually enough. The chances are, I mean, 15mm, you'd be lucky if you just spot them in black or something. But for most 28mm, some of them have modelled eyeballs, some of them don't. And it's up to you as to how much you want to paint the eyeball in, and usually that's enough. Dot of black in the middle, white on the outsides, good to go, all done. If you want to go a bit further, say you've got a 54mm model or something along those lines, what you can do is take a colour. I'm going to use a sort of aqua blue, just to sort of stand out against the black. You take the aqua colour and you can try and leave, oh, the black's still wet. Oh well, tell you what, I'll make this one bigger. I should be able to use that. If I spread that out a bit, it'll dry a bit faster. So, take a bit of your sort of internal colour and go around the outside, and what you're aiming to do is leave a small dot in the middle. Again, how big that dot is, I'm doing this quite rough, how big that dot is entirely up to you. Also, whether you leave a black line around the edge of it is entirely up to you as well. You can do, it's not coming out very well on the camera, I'm afraid. There we go, that's a bit better. So you can see you got sort of that colour region around there with the dot of black in the middle for the pupil. Iris, that's the word. So you got the iris and then the pupil in the middle. Okay, so again, you can either leave a sort of area of black around it, or you can go back in again and paint over the whole thing. Which style you want to do depends on what style of miniature, or sort of what kind of effect miniature you're trying to get. Obviously if you're doing a sort of Games Workshop style miniature with heavy lining, a lot of black lining, a lot of sharp highlights, things like that, you'll probably want to go for the black line around the edge. If you're painting a more sort of more artistic, more painterly miniature, more realistic miniature, then that's probably what you want to go for, because it'll give you a more realistic look. So essentially there you go, that's how I paint eyes. White all over, black hemispheres on either side, remembering to hit the top and bottom edges so you don't get that surprised look, and then if you've got the space on the miniature, colour, leaving a black dot in the middle, and that's it essentially. So good luck with your own miniatures.